straight from the tap into your glass.
What makes Scottish water world class?
The precious resources of our land.
Yet nature needs a helping hand.
So that your water is the very best.
We screen, filter, purify, test.
Through 30,000 miles of pipes and more.
From borderlands to far-flung shore.
Fresh, cool, clear water every day.
Helping you lead your life, your way.
Washed, cooked, quenched, showered.
Our whole nation is water-powered.
Now here's a fact we're sure you knew.
Scottish water is piped by us, owned by you.
Please proudly play an owner's part.
For we all have water in our heart.
Scottish Water.
It's your water, your life.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Glasgow Science Centre for Scottish Water's annual consultative meeting. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all and also welcome those of you who are watching online. So wherever you are, thank you for taking the time to be with us. And it's wonderful to be here in Glasgow, a vibrant city with a proud history shaped by water, engineering and innovation. From the River Clyde that helped build one of the world's great industrial cities to Loch Katrine, whose waters have been piped here to serve generations of Glaswegians for more than 160 years. Glasgow is also a city known for saying it as it is, sometimes quite colourfully, and so that's good, because this evening is all about openness, accountability and honest conversation. And this October, it's hosting the biggest international water event in the calendar as the International Water Association delivers its congress and exhibition. So in terms of our performance, Scottish Water has had a year of strong delivery. We've made significant progress while dealing with some of the most challenging operating conditions experienced for many years. And this meeting gives us the opportunity to reflect openly on our performance, explain the decisions we're taking for the future, and hear directly from the people and the communities that we serve. Listening to customers and stakeholders is an essential part of good governance, and evenings like this help us ensure the conversations we have are informed by the experiences, expectations and priorities of the people who rely on our services every day. We have a unique role in Scotland. We are publicly owned, we are commercially run, and we are independently regulated. And every pound we generate is invested in better services, resilience and the protection of Scotland's environment. Now, this model matters because it keeps us focused on long-term public value, not short-term shareholder returns, while commercial discipline and independent regulation keep efficiency, performance and value for money at the forefront of everything we do. The importance of this long-term approach is becoming clearer. Climate change is already affecting how we manage Scotland's water resources, and some of our infrastructure, built more than a century ago, does need replacing. This requires action and it requires investment. At the same time, customers' expectations are increasing. They rightly expect reliable services, a healthier environment, and, of course, affordable charges. Balancing these priorities is a key challenge for the Scottish Water Board and a responsibility that we take very seriously. So a significant focus for the board this year has been helping shape our proposed £13.4 billion investment programme for our next regulatory period. It's the largest ever proposed by us. And importantly, these plans have been developed with input from more than 25,000 customers, alongside regulators, consumer groups, local authorities, environmental organisations, and many other stakeholders, a really comprehensive approach. I would like to thank everyone who gave their input and to call out the work and insights from the independent customer group, who provide the scrutiny needed to ensure that our decisions are taken as if the customer were in the room. The message we heard was remarkably consistent. People want and expect reliable, high-quality services. They recognise the need for investment, but they want it delivered in a way that remains affordable. People understand the need to invest now rather than defer essential work, but they also want confidence that changes remain fair, support is there for those who need it, and every pound is spent wisely. Achieving the right balance between these priorities is an ongoing challenge. So the board's role is to provide oversight, challenge and support, ensuring Scottish Water's new operating and delivery models keep the organisation focused on today's customers, while of course preparing for tomorrow's challenges. Good governance means celebrating success, but also asking difficult questions where improvement is needed. So as chair, I feel really privileged to see the commitment, the expertise and the professionalism of colleagues across Scottish Water. Throughout the year, the board has continued to visit teams and projects across the country, meeting colleagues and communities from Dumfries and Galloway to the Highlands. And these visits remind us that Scottish Water is not just about treatment works, pipes and pumps. It's actually about thousands of dedicated people delivering an essential public service, often in quite challenging circumstances. Their professionalism, their pride, and their willingness to go the extra mile for customers are among our organisation's greatest strengths. Now, sometimes the importance of this work is highlighted in unexpected ways. Earlier this year, a bright yellow space hopper, for goodness sake, was found wedged inside a sewer in Royston, making headlines literally worldwide. So while it did raise a smile with some, it served as a useful reminder that the infrastructure beneath our feet is something that we all depend on and have a role in protecting. Earlier today, indeed, pupils from Denard Primary School in Maryhill took part in our national Generation H2O education programme, delivered by Scottish Water staff here at Glasgow Science Centre. The programme helps young people understand where their water comes from, why it matters, and the role that we all play in protecting it. Seeing them so engaged is a reminder that the choices we make today will shape the water services of the future. Indeed, England is an example of having to learn this lesson the hard way. Having previously deferred decisions on key investment, they are now facing the consequences. Bills have increased by up to 60% for some customers as they try to regain lost ground, while trust and confidence has taken a hit in their sector. We are determined that this is not a path that Scotland will follow. So good governance also means acknowledging where we need to do better. Expectations around environmental performance continue to grow, whilst extreme weather events are becoming the norm. And much of our infrastructure now requires significant renewal. These are challenges we recognise, and they will require continued focus, investment and collaboration. And greater scrutiny is something we should and do welcome. It's easy to talk about transparency when the story is positive, and we're good at that, but it matters even more when it's not. Wastewater and the operation of sewer overflows rightly receives public attention. Scotland starts from a relatively strong environmental position, but there is more to do. And so we are increasing monitoring of our overflows, publishing more information, and investing to improve our wastewater network. And greater transparency will sometimes bring uncomfortable questions, and we should be prepared to answer them. Kinghorn Harbour in Fife is a current example. Bathing water quality has been a long-standing and complex challenge. And this summer, it led SEPA to issuing precautionary advice for people to avoid contact with the Kinghorn burn, which understandably caused concern and frustration with the local community. So we took part in a public meeting along with SEPA and Fife Council, and we're continuing to monitor and investigate the site to help us understand the sources of pollution and what more needs to be done. This matters because we need to be candid that some issues do not have quick or simple solutions, while also being clear that complexity is not a reason to lower our ambition. So finally, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to Scottish Water's performance over the past year. This includes our delivery partners, local authorities, consumer representatives, and many other stakeholders. Above all, I want to thank our colleagues whose dedication, their professionalism, and their commitment to keep this essential public service flowing every hour of the day in every corner of Scotland. Our annual report, Performance and Prospects, tells the full story of the year, the progress made, the challenges faced, and the work still to do. And the short film that you're about to see brings to life some of the achievements and milestones of the past year. And then after the film, Alex will take us through the detail. So thank you and enjoy the film.
Every day, Scottish Water keeps life flowing across Scotland, providing water and wastewater services to around 2.6 million households and more than 150,000 business premises across the country. Hospitals, schools, homes, businesses, industry, tourism, from the water that comes out of the tap to the wastewater that's safely taken away, treated and returned to the environment. The pressures on Scotland's water and wastewater system are not easing, they're growing fast. Climate change, more extreme weather, ageing infrastructure, population change, rising expectations. And this year brought many of those pressures sharply into view. Scotland experienced one of the driest starts to a year in more than 60 years, followed by periods of intense rainfall and flooding. It was a year that saw Scottish Water continue record levels of investment, maintain strong customer trust, and respond to some of the most challenging operating conditions we've faced in recent years.
This year tested our systems, our infrastructure, and above all, the people who keep them all running. Too much water, too little water, and increasingly both happening within the same year. But when we appealed to customers to use water wisely during dry weather, demand reduced by around 60 million litres a day. So thank you to everyone who played their part. That collective response really mattered. And despite those pressures, this was Scottish Water's second best year of operational performance on record. Our teams kept services running through drought, through floods, and through major operational challenges. And throughout that time, customer trust has remained the highest in the UK water sector, and our drinking water quality remained exceptionally high. We also continued to invest at record levels in infrastructure and resilience across Scotland. We made important environmental progress this year. Our most serious environmental pollution incidents reduced to just 2 this year. Now that is a significant improvement, but it still falls short of our ambition of having 0. Wastewater services and sewer overflows remain firmly in the public spotlight, and of course we understand why. And that's why we're continuing to invest in our wastewater infrastructure, our monitoring, and making day-to-day improvements that reduce pollution, reduce risk, and improve performance for everybody. But we also know there are areas where improvement is still needed. Leakage remains one of those areas. This year also included some significant operational incidents. At Rawburn Water Treatment Works in Berwickshire, protecting public health had to come first. And so we needed to shut off supplies as a precaution following issues we found within the treatment process. The impact of that on local communities was significant. Our teams were working around the clock to restore supplies as quickly as possible and to support customers. But we did recognise that there were some important lessons around communication and coordination that we needed to take from that incident. And only a few months later, when a third-party diesel spill affected water supplies in Killin, we were able to put that learning to work. Communication was much faster, was more local, was more frequent. So the learning culture we have at Scottish Water really matters, because we know that the challenges facing water services are increasing. One of the things I enjoy most about being here at the Royal Highland Show is talking to the people we serve. And a lot of what people tell us is actually pretty straightforward. They want services they can rely on, they want us to respond quickly when things do go wrong, and they want it to be really easy to get information and support when they need it. And that's exactly why we're making more use of data and digital technology to spot problems sooner, to respond faster, and just to give everyone in Scotland a better service.
We also generated a record 64.9 gigawatt hours of renewable electricity this year, enough to power thousands of homes while helping save more than 10,000 tonnes of carbon through renewable energy projects, energy efficiency improvements, and nature-based solutions across Scotland. Scottish Water exists to serve the people of Scotland. This year showed both the scale of the challenge ahead and the extraordinary people who meet it every day. Their skill, professionalism and commitment remain one of Scottish Water's greatest strengths.
There is still and always more to do, but we are continuing to invest, to innovate and to adapt, because the expectations of our customers, our communities and the environment will not stand still, and so neither should we. For customers, for communities, for the environment and for Scotland. Take a look at our latest annual report to see how Scottish Water is delivering for Scotland today while also investing for the Scotland of tomorrow.
It's a bit weird coming up when you've just been on video and then you're here in person, but anyway, it's great to be here. Good evening, everyone. It's also particularly good to be here in Glasgow. As Deirdre says earlier, this is a city that is known for and values straight talking, and I'll try to do exactly that this evening. As you've heard, this has been one of our strongest years, but at the same time, one of its most demanding. That might sound like a contradiction, but it actually captures the reality of the 12 months of the report. We don't get to choose the conditions we operate in. And this summer has shown the increasingly challenging climate that we're all operating in. If you look at what's happened in Europe, we've seen Western Europe experience its hottest summer ever. We've seen prolonged heat and drought put real pressure on water resources, contributed to multiple wildfires. And closer to home in the UK, it's been one of the warmest summers on record, with large parts of England and all of Wales officially in drought. Now, we've fared a bit better than some other parts of the UK and certainly Europe, but we have recently faced very prolonged dry weather. As we were talking about earlier, last year we saw the driest spring in more than 60 years, and that puts real pressures on. But despite those pressures, we have continued to maintain normal supplies for most of our customers. Now, how have we done that? Well, it reflects in part that we've built resilience into our networks through investment over many years. It also reflects the tremendous work of the people who keep services running day in and day out, whatever the weather. But it also critically reflects the help that we got from our customers when we asked them to reduce demand. And on the video right at the beginning, this point around we ask people to play an owner's part. We're a publicly owned entity. We want our customers to work with us to address some of those difficult challenges. And when we've asked them to do so, they've really stood up. And thank you for that. But we know we can't take the current resilience for granted. This summer is a really powerful reminder of the conditions that we must prepare for and the investments we've got to carry on making as we see those weather extremes become the norm and the operating environment that we've been used to becoming far less predictable. So we have shown resilience this summer, but the challenge really is to be ready for the more difficult seasons that we know are going to hit us in the years ahead. Resilience isn't just about responding well when a crisis arrives with extreme weather. It's actually about investing, planning, and preparing ahead of time so that you're resilient when the issue arises. So, against that difficult backdrop, I am really proud, as the video said, to be able to report that 25-26 was our second best year of operational performance. It's a really remarkable achievement pulled off by our colleagues and our delivery partners across Scotland. And that strong performance isn't just about the statistics in the report. It is about the people who are solving problems under pressure, keeping services running. And most customers don't wake up in the morning thinking about water infrastructure. They, quite rightly, expect the tap to run, the toilet to flush, and the shower to flow. And I'm delighted that customer trust in Scottish Water remains amongst the highest of any utility in the UK. And customer satisfaction, again, improved this year and around 90%. It's a really good position we're in. But when it comes down to the real crunch issues, what I'm particularly proud of is things like the drinking water quality that we've delivered remaining exceptionally high. We know that's something that people across the country really take pride in and really take joy in when they come back from holiday and turn the tap on and have a glass of cool, great tasting Scottish water. If I look at the wastewater side, as the video said, we recorded just 2 serious pollution incidents. Now that is the lowest number in our history, but again, as said on the video, we want to eliminate them altogether, but we should recognise the progress made towards that goal. But a strong year in 25-26 doesn't mean we got everything right. Leakage is one area where we know we still need to improve further. And finding and fixing leaks across a vast and aging underground network is pretty complex. Many leaks never actually appear at the surface. It's a hidden loss. So we're investing in better monitoring, better detection, using data, using technology to try and find leaks earlier and targeting our work where we can make the biggest difference. We're also looking at new ways to tackle some of these issues. So in Dundee, we're in the middle of running Scotland's first ever domestic smart monitoring trial. And it's beginning to give us a much clearer picture of where water's being used and, importantly, helping us identify leaks in people's homes that can otherwise be difficult to detect. Now, for customers taking part in the trial, it means helping them understand how much water they're using, to spot unusual patterns that could indicate a leak, a leaky loo or a leaky tap, and show them how simple changes can help them to use less water. And it's really important because tackling leakage and strengthening our water resilience is not about just one thing. We've got to think about reducing losses on the network, find leaks where they occur, use better data, use technology to target our efforts, and again, work with our customers to help them understand and find ways to reduce their own water usage. Now, the Dundee trial is really interesting, giving us insight into what works and what might be scalable in the future. In such a rapidly changing climate, every litre we can save helps to make Scotland's supplies more resilient, but it also makes it more affordable in the long run. So looking ahead, one of the things that gives me greatest confidence is how we respond when we're tested. And we learn, adapt, and work together to improve. As we saw in the video, that learning from the Rawburn incident, the instruction to supply, was really valuable. And when we got to the incident in Killin just a few months later, our response was significantly better. And our customers in the Killin area noticed it and told us so, which was really pleasing to see. Because the challenges ahead are becoming more complex, we are going to have to think and act differently. And it's why we're also changing how Scottish Water works. We've put in place a new operating model, a new delivery model to allow us to respond faster, work more collaboratively, and efficiently deliver the investment that we know Scotland needs. Resilience isn't just about replacing pipes or building bigger treatment works. It's about trying to create a water service that is ready for the Scotland of the future and the climate of the future. That means combining digital technology with physical infrastructure, bringing those together. It's about working in collaboration with our councils, with developers, with farmers, with environmental organisations, with communities, with regulators. And we can see what that looks like in practice. When we've got that better data, better insights, we spot issues earlier. We can respond faster. We can reduce the number of times we need to be out on site. And when you think about it, water sits at the heart of almost everything that Scotland is going to need to flourish in the future. Whether that's building new homes, supporting economic growth, adapting to climate change, and protecting the environment. And so that's why our proposed £13.4 billion investment programme for the 2027 to 2033 period is so important. It's a big amount of money. It's a big scale of investment. But the reason that scale is so significant is to respond to the challenge that is equally significant. Now, putting that investment in will mean we can actually replace assets ahead of failing. We can strengthen our resilience to droughts and flooding that are going to become more normal. We can improve our environmental performance, support new homes, support new businesses, and respond to the impacts of climate change. And this year, we also cut our underlying operational carbon emissions by more than 13,000 tonnes. That includes generating over 4.5 gigawatts of energy efficiency improvements across 40 projects, saves carbon, it saves money as well. And we generated nearly 65 gigawatt hours of renewable energy, the most we've ever done. Our fleet emissions have also gone down. We've got our first fully electric HGV tanker, it's very exciting, and we have a fully electric car fleet as well. We're also changing how we build. So that big capital program I talked about, that counts around about half of our total carbon footprint. So finding ways where we can deliver lower carbon construction really matters. To introduce low carbon steel, cutting emissions by around 70%, and our low carbon concrete programs have been very successful too. Now, all of this reduces the environmental cost of delivering the services that customers rely on and the actual money cost as well. We also know that nature is part of the answer here too. So we've restored just under 460 hectares of peatland, and around 240 hectares of new woodland. And what does that do? Well, it helps store carbon, but it also protects water quality, which in turn reduces treatment costs, it supports biodiversity, and it makes our whole system more resilient. So looking ahead, as we go into that next period, we're planning for 10% of that next capital programme to be delivered through nature-based solutions. Now, as always, investment must be balanced with affordability. We know that many households and businesses are under real financial pressure. Customers quite rightly expect us to make sure we are spending every pound of their money carefully and wisely. So we have to be clear about why investment is needed. We must keep charge increases as low as possible, driving efficiency in everything we do. And in Scotland, it's worth noting that around 50% of households receive some support for paying their water bills. As a publicly owned company, every pound of any surplus we generate is reinvested in improving services for customers and communities across Scotland. At the same time, we benchmark ourselves against the very best performing utilities. We're always looking to challenge our own efficiency, we're always looking for better ways of delivering value, and our board holds us to account for that. Being publicly owned doesn't remove the need for the commercial discipline that has to be in place. If anything, it makes that responsibility even greater, because I know that we're investing all of your money on behalf of the people and the environment of Scotland. And the value we create from that investment goes well beyond just shoring up and improving our core services. We undertook some independent analysis last year that shows that we generate around £4.5 billion a year for Scotland's economy. We support around 21,000 jobs, both directly and indirectly, and we create around £3 of value for every £1 that's invested. And about 90% of our direct supply chain spend is with companies operating in Scotland. So during the last year, we continue to invest at record levels, strengthening our infrastructure. And one of the most significant achievements we delivered this year was completing the Glasgow to Ayrshire Water Network Resilience Project. That's the single largest capital project that we've ever delivered. It stretches for around 100 miles, and it provides much greater flexibility of moving water around, and meaning that supplies for over 1 million customers are much more resilient to those more difficult weather events we talked about. And then, as Deirdre mentioned, in October, we're expecting around 10,000 delegates from around the world to be gathering at the SEC just across the Clyde for the International Water Association World Water Congress and Exhibition. It is the largest event of its kind that's ever been held in the UK. And as co-president of the Congress, it's been a real privilege to help bring that event to Scotland and to this proud city. And what that's about is much more than just hosting an international water conference. It's actually recognising that Scotland and the wider UK has something valuable to contribute to the global conversation about water. If you think about countries across the world who are grappling with the same issues we face here around climate change, water scarcity, flooding, ageing infrastructure, and protecting the environment, we actually have the chance to learn from them, showcase what we're doing well here, and bring new ideas that will benefit our customers too. And it's interesting the time we spent with the Denard Primary School from Maryhill this morning. They had such understanding of these issues, and it gives me real hope that the customers of the future understand these issues and are willing to lean in and work with us to try and address them, both here and across the world. And for me, all of that reflects something really quite important about Scottish Water. We're always wanting to talk and hear and listen. We're always wanting to improve. We are proud of what we achieved, but we're never complacent. We recognise where we need to do better, we learn from our own experience, and we continue to look for new ways to deliver better services. So, whilst the years ahead are undoubtedly going to bring some very real challenges, I also see some fantastic opportunities. And I am optimistic, because despite all of those things, I see in Scottish Water an organisation that's transparent, it's open, it's learning, it's adapting, and it's investing. We have colleagues whose professionalism and commitment impresses me every day. We have regulators who work constructively with us, challenging but constructive. And we have partners who are sharing our ambition for resilient, sustainable, and affordable services. And most importantly of all, we have customers who trust us. Now, all of that gives me the confidence that Scottish Water can use its model to keep improving and delivering the high-quality services that Scotland needs, deserves, and rightly expects. After a summer of really very hot weather, And more than a few thoughts of taps off, I'll end with what really matters, which is keeping the taps on and ensuring our services are resilient and that we're safeguarding Scotland's water future. It's not going to be easy ahead, but it is vital, and we're ready for that challenge. So please, it's great to have you all here. Ask us your questions, give us your views, give us your ideas, and keep us honest. And that's how we keep getting better. So thank you for coming on today. Thank you for listening. I'm going to hand back to Deirdre to open up for conversation and discussion.
Thank you very much. Are we able to move the lectern, Natalie? Because otherwise we're playing peekaboo with half the audience. Is that, or do you want us to move? Yeah. You allowed to? Hey, there you go, Alex. Super. Hello.
You don't need the capital investment director to move it.
That's right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. That was a really good overview of the progress we've made and of the choices that we need to be thinking about ahead. So as we move into the Q&A session, and we have a lot of questions, so thank you. And I think some of you in the room have submitted questions, so we'll ask you to articulate them, and we've got a roving mic. But we're also joined, and I'm really pleased, we're joined by members of Scottish Water's executive leadership team. We've got Director of Wastewater, Simon Parsons. We've got Director for Strategy and Regulation, Wendy Kimpton. And we've got Director of Water, Kevin Roy. And in the audience tonight, we've got Chief Financial Officer, Alan Dingwall. Alan, raise your hand, great. Director of Capital Investment, Rob Mustard. And Director of Corporate Affairs, Raymond Buchanan, at the back there. So, you know, we say we want a genuine conversation, we do, because this is how we learn. This is, you know, hearing from you, our customers, is really important. And it helps us. It helps us build, and it helps us get better. If you're joining online, you can submit questions there too, and so we'll try and bring as many into the room as we can. We have a lot of questions, so I'm going to get to it. We do have a sharp stop, and any that we haven't got to, we've got a commitment from the lovely Natalie that they will be answered in good time. So, first one is online. So it's Rich Armitage. He's in the Scottish Borders. So thank you, Rich, and thank you for joining us online. And the question is to you, Kevin. Scotland is known for the quality of its drinking water, but with climate change and reduced investment, what are the biggest risks to maintaining the quality in the years ahead?
So thank you, Rich, for the question, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for engaging in the event. I'm delighted that our drinking water continues to be a source of national pride. The Drinking Water Quality Regulator agrees and said so in his annual report, which was released today, which is great. But yes, there are pressures. Climate change, ageing assets, longer, drier summers are apparent in our everyday working lives. Those create volatility in our raw water sources. And one example of us trying to counteract that is the work that we're doing at Loch Katrine to plant the UK's biggest forest in over 100 years. And that will preserve the loch that you see in the picture behind me, that's getting tapped to these cups in front of me. Another antidote to that would be the investment that Alex referenced. Water alone will do around about £600 million per annum over the next 6 years. Yes, there'll be difficult choices around future investment, where to prioritise, where the trade-offs are, but our ambition doesn't change. We want to provide world-class drinking water that customers can trust today and for generations to come.
Please, Alex, add, yeah.
Just one quick build. I think this will still work, will it? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
One quick build. Rich, you talked about reduced investment. As Kevin's just indicated, actually, we've been increasing investment. And one of the things that's interesting about Scotland compared to England is that the regulator, our economic regulator, recognised the need for increased investment. And so we've had an increased level of investment going into water and into wastewater over recent times, and not the kind of suspension of investment that Deirdre referenced earlier. So we'd always want more, but we have actually been on an increasing trend of investment as well.
No, thank you, Alex. It's a good add. So Sheila Ewell, are you in the audience? Yeah. Sheila, thank you. So Sheila, thanks for joining us. You're from Creighton Community Council. Rob, this is one coming to you. So Sheila, over to you.
You've put Glasgow's resilience project through Bellahouston Park, and as a community we were concerned about the reinstatement, and we came on to your online AGM in 2020 and asked, were you going to reinstate the park back to what it had been? You gave the guarantee you would, and 6 years later, I'm sitting here and it hasn't been put back.
A fair challenge, Sheila, and thanks for coming along to do that. Rob, what's our answer?
Yes, thank you very much for the question, Sheila, and it was really good to catch up with you before the session. Firstly, apologies that you've had to raise the question. As Alex showed in his slide a while ago, we have done a significant investment across the area on the west side of Glasgow. It is always our intent to return, where we've been working back to how we found it beforehand. And you've shared some information earlier on with me that it looks like, from what I've seen, that's not the case. So I will take that away from here today and pick it up, and we will work with you on that.
So thank you, Sheila. Thanks, Rob. Okay, Kevin Mooney, are you here? Kevin, thanks for joining us. You're looking to ask a question, I think, about bioresource, and Simon's going to pick this one up. Over to you.
Thanks. I can't actually remember exactly the word in your question.
I'll double check for you.
well, a bit of a senior moment, but basically, I work in bioresources, so first off the bat, I'm in the supply chain, but the question's coming from because I'm a customer. There's a real opportunity with Scotland's fleet that deals with the sewage sludge and the technologies that are coming around. I know Scottish Water's been quite ahead of the game and looking at what they can do next. And it's about turning what we think is a waste and trying to get something out of it and forgetting that it's a waste. It's not. It's a resource. That's why we use bioresources. I just like a little bit of an update on top of what you've already put outside in terms of the investment just along the road about how we're going to get the most out of that resource given the opportunity we've got.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Brilliant. And thanks very much, Kevin. And I know you're passionate about bioresources, so great to hear that question today. So there's a big change happening in wastewater here in Scotland. In history, a lot of our wastewater treatment and our bioresources was actually operated by private finance initiative projects. So a decision that was made 20 odd years ago as part of that. So if you went back to last year, we probably operated and managed about 25% of what's a byproduct from us treating society's sewage. And that was treated, so about 75% of it was treated by other people, partners that we have who operate some of our plants, the biggest one of which is here in Glasgow, in Daldowie. So that's a big change for us at the moment. So if I go forward 5 years, 90% of that will be operated by us. And that gives us a very, very different opportunity from what we have today. So what that means is we're using old energy, really energy kind of technologies that use a lot of energy, a lot of chemicals to treat that wastewater sludge. That bioresources, we're going to change that round. And if you had the opportunity to see Fraser and a team outside talking about our new plant here in Scotland. So we're actually going to convert that. So we're going to produce energy rather than using energy. We're going to produce gas that will go into the gas mains here in Glasgow from that. We'll be producing ammonia. So a real opportunity in the future is how can you use ammonia as a fuel or as an alternate for chemical ammonia. And that's a real shift in mindset from something that's viewed as a problem 20 years ago when those plants are built to what will be really a very valuable resource for us, for society, not just Scottish Water, it's about society here in Scotland. So a real massive change and huge investment. So the project you saw outside for Daldowie, that will be Scotland's biggest ever project, twice the value of the project that Alex talked about. And it's not just on a few big sites. This needs investment on lots and lots and lots of sites to make sure the material that leaves our wastewater treatment works is fit for purpose for our new assets. So huge change to us, one of our biggest changes as an organisation over the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob. Simon. So, Wendy, I'm going to come to you now. We've got a question from Alison MacDonald from Livingston, who's going to be watching online. What does success for Scottish Water look like in 2035 from a customer's perspective?
Hi, Alison. Thank you very much for such a great question. It's actually really good timing as well because we're going through our planning process at the moment, our strategic review, where we're looking to see where we want to be by at least 2033. And as Alex mentioned earlier, to do that, we've really undertaken some extensive customer research to understand what our customers want and need from us So moving forward into 2035, I think what we'll be doing is we will be delivering those outcomes that our customers want and need reliably every single day. We'll be investing and maintaining our assets, which, as we've already heard, is really, really important. We've got huge numbers of assets across the whole of the country that deliver our water services, and we need to make sure that we're looking after them properly, both for today's and tomorrow's customers. So we'll be doing that. We'll also be managing the impacts of a rapidly changing climate. We're doing it now. I think we'll be doing it even more so by 2035. So we're thinking very carefully about how we'll be doing that. And then we're making progress towards our long-term strategic aims. So we want to make sure that water remains a source of national pride for everybody in Scotland. We want to make sure that we do our bit in helping to look after the rivers and the water bodies across Scotland. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to support sustainable growth. So fundamentally, we'll still have the trust and confidence that we currently enjoy from all of our customers and stakeholders. And we'll be doing the right things to look after the assets on which we all depend, both now and into the future.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, Raymond, I'm coming to you, but this is a question from Tom Barber. Tom, are you in the room? Hello. So, over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much. My question was about top-up taps. I understand there's about 130 in Scotland. About 5 or 6 years ago, I got in touch with Scottish Water to see if we could get one for our town. And I was told at the time there's about 130 in Scotland and we've got no budget to increase that. And within the last 18 months, I was back in touch with Scottish Water and asked the same question and got the same response. I think they're absolutely fantastic. They look great, aesthetically, great branding. In the 7-minute video you had, they appeared twice, and then I lost count of the number of times they appeared in Alex's slides, including at the end of the little podium, gold, silver, bronze. But you know, what is the plans for increasing those, given microplastics and just all the issues with encouraging people to drink tap water rather than bottled water?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for your support on that. We love the top-up taps, but over to you, Raymond. It's a challenge.
I love them too. There's one just outside there. They're fantastic. They are, as you say, around 130 top-up taps throughout Scotland. They are very well used. There's one in every local authority area in Scotland, so we've made sure that there's a sufficient spread across the country. They've helped offset, we reckon, more than 20 million plastic bottles since we've started installing the top-up taps. And you're right to say that they are very well received by the communities in which they're in. And we, of course, talk about them quite a lot. If you look at some of the research we do with customers, when they've used a top-up tap, they tend to think even more about the quality of Scottish water than they had beforehand. So they are fantastic assets, and we would love to have more. But as you've heard from the podium and during this meeting, what Scottish Water always has to do is to balance affordability with investment. And there's so much demand on the system that we have to be careful about where we allocate those budgets. In the best case scenario, of course, we would love to invest in more top-up taps, but we just have to do that carefully. It's not just what we want to do with these, of course, we also have to find the right sites, make sure they're used appropriately and economically, and then we have to work with communities and with the site owners. So I think we will see more on an ad hoc basis top-up taps in the years ahead, but to be entirely frank with you, there are budget constraints, and that's unfortunate because they are such fantastic assets, but we'll continue to look at cases on a case-by-case basis.
Can I come back very briefly?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, but in a 15 or 17 billion budget, the cost of these taps, it doesn't even need to be as elaborate as the top-up, which I think the cost of about 2,000 the actual asset each, and no new ones in the last 5 years. That doesn't sound, I mean, you've obviously recognised the PR benefit and the communications benefit of having those on the network and around Scotland, but you don't seem to be matching that in what you're investing in.
But there's a significant ongoing cost with each individual asset, and that's one thing we have to be aware of. What we're doing more as an organisation is where there are particular community events and there's a demand for water, we're turning up with what we call the pop-up taps rather than the top-up taps. So these are temporary structures. So you saw in some of the images there during the Commonwealth Games at the free fan zone, for example, we were there and that was very popular. So I fully hear what you're saying. I agree with almost everything you're saying, and I would love that we would say, of course, we'll come to your community, of course we'll invest in that. We just have to balance that investment with the affordability point, and that's always a difficult one that leads to some decisions we'd rather not make, but they are inevitable, unfortunately.
I think Alex wants to build. Alex?
Tom, thank you. Just one quick build. We have actually still put some new ones in. So we opened a new one in Kirkcaldy last year, I think, Alan. It's your hometown.
Self-interest there.
All the things that Raymond said are absolutely right, but it's not that there's a moratorium. We have put some more in. We did a big splurge, tried to get the coverage that Raymond talked about. It's not closed, but it has to reach certain hurdles. So keep talking to us, but can't make any promises.
Yeah, no, thank you. Keeping it on our radar is really good. Okay, so Siobhan Jarvie, are you here? Siobhan?
Yeah.
Yes, hi Siobhan. So, do you want me to ask a question? You've forgotten your question.
Didn't ask me a question.
Oh. That's fine. Brilliant.
I'm having a senior moment.
Well, Kevin, this is coming to you.
So yeah, the question that I had asked a while ago. So what new methods are you using to manage and maintain your infrastructure to protect the supply? And are you seeing any significant impacts on your supply due to the changing climate?
Yeah.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Rob's first, and then I'll pick up the climate question.
Making you work today, Norma. Again, a great question, and I think Alex set the tone in some of what he said earlier around the new methods and the proactive sensing and digital capability that we're using. I'll give some examples of what we're actually doing to actually transition from reacting to things as they happen to preempting and planning. One example is a system called Pipe Diver, where we can send, this is a really layman's explanation, but send a drone or equivalent machine up the pipe that actually assesses it and can spot things that we clearly can't see without digging the road up. So I think it's a great opportunity to understand the infrastructure and give our teams a real chance to get in before it becomes a problem. It's not only about it's not only about inspecting, moving from reactive to planned. We're also refurbishing, taking a great opportunity to refurbish some of the kit that we've got rather than always replacing. But where we have to replace, and this is in some of the big capital investment world, we're trying to do things like off-site fabrication, repeatability, and I talked about modularization earlier, or modules which adult space mechano, I think that was the analogy I came up with. We're building a lot of kit off-site, repeating it, and then taking it to site. And by doing that, we can be more efficient and more safe. And we've done that all the way from Peebles up to Shetland and currently back down to Dumfries and Galloway with a technology called ceramic membranes in water treatment. The final thing I would say about ceramic membranes is they need replaced a lot less than the current treatment processes we have, which is a great outcome for customers too, around the ability we don't have to go in that often. From the actual impact of the climate, I'll hand back to Kevin just to touch on some recent examples.
So thank you for the question, Siobhan, and I'm really glad that we're having this two-way dialogue and a recurring theme in climate change. It's a national conversation that's required, and it's great to see that it's recurring tonight. Just in terms of impact, I touched on raw water quality and the impacts on that earlier on in the last question that I answered, but in 2025 last year, Scotland experienced its driest start to a year since 1964. That put significant pressure on supplies in Dundee, with one of the two reservoirs there dropping to almost below 30%. That culminated from 2 years of sustained low rainfall, and then it refilled again in 3 weeks after Christmas, miraculously. We anticipate this volatility will continue, and we're planning to invest in improving resilience of supply, zone to zone, and both in terms of water quality and volume. So thank you again.
Super, thank you very much. So we have another question from a guest in the audience, and this time it's Mia Lahani. Lahani, have I got that right? Mia, thank you. From the lovely Isle of Lismore. So you're going to ask a question, and actually we've got Mark Hunter, who's our General Manager for Development Services. And Mark, you're going to hopefully answer Maya's question.
Amazing, thank you. So Scottish Water's official vision is for excellent quality drinking water for all of Scotland, which is absolutely fantastic. However, I live in Argyll and Bute, where 1 in 3 households are on private water supplies, and we are kind of struggling on our own to maintain safe drinking water for our families, our visitors, our businesses, our enterprises. And we feel a third of Argyll and Bute is definitely part of all Scotland. So my question is, what are the ways that Scottish Water can acknowledge and also support the private water supply users in our rural and island communities, and as Alex said beautifully, help us keep our taps on?
Thank you, super question. Coming from the West Coast, I fully endorse your question there. So Mark, over to you.
Certainly a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Mia. I'll not answer specifically regarding Lismore, but I'm quite happy to catch up with you after I've spoke to you already in terms of about what we can do and look if there's anything we can do to support it. But let me talk about private water supplies just a bit more generally. So there's over 20,000 private water supplies in Scotland, and there was a study done decades ago in terms of what it would cost to connect them to the public mains, and back then it was in the billions of pounds, so it would be very expensive to do that. Wendy's touched on our future plans and our engagement with customer groups, stakeholders, government, regulators, and one of the programmes that was considered as part of that is what's called first-time provision, so putting in water and wastewater treatment for the first time. And we've just had a conversation about top-up taps and affordability and where can we get our best bang for the buck. And so first-time provision, really going through that process, there was no funding identified through that. So there's no plans to do that. So that's a general point from a first-time provision. There is other things that are happening. So Scottish Government recently ran a pilot in terms of extending public water mains to allow private water supplies, and that was very much from a climate change water scarcity perspective, and it was ran as a pilot to learn lessons from that. It proved really challenging because private water supplies are private generally for good reason. It became very expensive to support them, so cost was a problem, and one of the other things that we identified was community cohesion in terms of working together wasn't great in some of those areas. So there are tools, so Scottish Government has a pilot, we have some mechanisms internally, but generally they're very expensive and very difficult from an engineering point of view, and when we balance that against some of the other priorities, there's other ways we should probably invest our money better. But regarding the specifics of Lismore, I'm more than happy to have a conversation, put you in touch with people in government who are running some of these pilots, and see if there's anything that we can be done to try and help that circumstance.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mark. Thank you for picking up on that. We've got Dinesh Navyam, who has come all the way from London to be with us today, so you're very welcome. And you've got a question for us, so do you want to?
Yeah, I think I'm having a senior moment as well. So
brilliant. Would you like to know what you asked?
I know it's around technology, and embracing AI throughout the next regulatory period, so fairly topical challenge, I guess, in terms of how Scottish Water will utilise this new phenomenon.
Yeah, no, great questions. Alex?
Yeah, thanks. And as you say, very topical. I think I get more questions about data centres at the moment than almost anything else. But that's about the other side of it. It's what water do you need to cool data centres is the question that often comes up. Your question is more about how we deploy that. And we've done a lot of work in the last couple of years looking at that question. Not just AI in that sense, but all aspects of digital data, machine learning, how do we can get further ahead. And in particular, it touches on some of what Rob was talking about earlier. We know that if we can deploy things like sensors in our networks more effectively, it allows us to understand what might be happening and could become problematic before it becomes a really difficult issue. And if you can intervene ahead of time, that's always cheaper and better than having to respond once you actually hit the crisis. So certainly sensor data, predictive analytics, machine learning, all of that helps that more proactive approach. Now, I think like many organizations, we're still working out exactly what this might mean for us and how AI could be harnessed for good to allow us to actually free up resource for more productive uses elsewhere. We also, though, did quite an important bit of work, I think, right at the beginning of all of this, was to develop some AI guardrails, which is like, how should we use this in a way that is ethical? And so that bit of work that was led by our colleague Chris Toop, who's our Director of Digital, who's unfortunately not with us tonight, was really helpful in discussing with the board and informing the kind of approach we should take. And I feel happy that we've got the kind of guardrails in place that can then help us make the most of this in a way that is inconsistent with the values that we have as an organisation. But it's a great question, and I can't give you the answer, but hopefully that gives you a sense of it.
But do we want any of the other directors to answer where they're seeing it benefiting?
By all means, I mean, it comes across in, well, particularly Simon and Kevin.
And the opportunity you see.
Well, and Rob for that matter, but yeah. Simon, yeah.
Go for it, Simon. Oh.
Go on.
Kevin, I'm sure, has got a better answer than I have. so I think if you think about big technologies, so if you go back to the type of digital technologies we would have used 10, 20 years ago compared to today, imagine anybody who sat in here with a mobile phone compared to what it was 10 years ago. So even if you think about how we use the most modern, the iPads, the digital tools, the mobile phones, that in itself has made a massive change to how we communicate with our field teams and how our field teams take information from the field and communicate to us. That's a massive benefit to us and to actually how we reduce customers' bills. So AI or machine learning is the next big phase of that, and the key one is there's lots of excitement about it. How do we best use it? Now, I use it every day. Yeah. So, could I now write an email without using ChatGPT? Unlikely. But I use it every day, and it helps me. Maybe I'm 5-10% more productive. So the value for us as an organisation is, can we be 5 or 10% more productive by using these tools? But in the wastewater area, we are generally pretty blind to what's happening under the ground. So what's happening in our sewers, for example, out there. So what things like the AI and the new sensor technology, because they have to be linked together, give us is a really quick accelerator of how we can get more information about how our networks are working. Where are we getting blockages, for example? Where are we seeing flooding happening? And if I can do it, if I can find a way of stopping 30% of our blockages happening in our sewer system because they're using some clever technology, love it. That would be my view.
I would just add one more example, and there's countless in the organisation at the moment, but leakage detection is one where it's going to drive huge opportunity. We have around 41 network analysts across Scotland who will kind of just look through various different sources of data, looking to identify leaks that we then go and try and look for. We've done a pilot of AI in a zone that's particularly difficult and particularly long, and the AI can sort of synthesise that data and find the leaks several days before the analyst can. Huge opportunity. I think Mark maybe has another example that's worth.
Then it's just a real life example in terms of where we've deployed it, and it might not be where you naturally go to with AI. So my role in development services is about new houses being built, and the developer installs new water pipes and sewers, and then Scottish Water they vest those assets. One of the things that we have to do through that is check that the sewers have been laid correctly. The way we do that is they provide a CCTV survey, a camera down the sewer, and could you imagine having to sit for a few hours to watch a video to pinpoint defects in that in terms of, so I've really struggled in terms of to get my team to do that because there's lots of other more interesting tasks. AI has picked that up and is fantastic at picking up those defects in the sewers that allows us to pinpoint it. So it's sped up the process, led to efficiency, and actually it's a task that my team would prefer not to do. So it's just one example among many that have been quoted where we've deployed AI and looked to deploy that in other places.
So thank you all. So I think lots of examples, and this is an area where we want to really motor on and focus on going forward. So Alan, we've got a question coming for you. It's coming online from Dave Sherry from East Lothian, and it's how difficult is it to land the budget in the right place each year, making sure money is being put to work for customers rather than sitting as surplus, without leaving Scottish Water financially exposed if something unexpected happens, which with climate change, ageing assets, rising costs and other challenges, must be a bit of a concern, to say the least.
That's a very long question, Dave. Thank you very much. And thank you for your empathy. And I'll try to resist the opportunity for therapy as I answer it. So, three things. Firstly, we're a really large and complex organisation. I think you've heard some of that scale and complexity tonight. Second thing is there's lots of things changing. There's lots of variety in the organisation. And the third thing is, the good news is we bake in efficiency into every budget. It's demanded from our regulator. So in terms of the scale of the organisation, we are spending roughly £2 billion a year and increasing. Okay, so you've heard some of those numbers today, whether it's from water and waste. In terms of the complexity, you've heard lots about water and waste. We've got lots of other things going on. So we've got laboratories, we've got logistics, we've got lots of teams that support the organisation. There is a lot of stuff going on in the organisation. We're large and we're complex. In terms of variation, again, pipes burst. That is a fact of life for us. You've heard about the weather and climate change. We had the driest spring last year. We had possibly the wettest January I can remember. The year after, if you see the charts, it goes up like a rocket. And then we have things that are hard to control, like national insurance and energy costs. And we are a big consumer of energy costs. And further, there's an ongoing reaction to energy costs and many of the things we buy, whether it's steel or concrete or these things. So lots of variety in the organisation as well. Now, in terms of efficiency, our regulator demands that every single year we are more efficient than we were the last year. That's the deal we make with you as customers. Okay, so the regulator is protecting you. And that makes it a challenge every year in our budget. Because you've heard the demands on the organisation. You've heard tonight whether it's more top-up taps or whether it's reinstatement works. There is a lot of demands on the organisation. We have never spent more than we're spending today. Okay, but we're doing it more efficiently. So that's what we have in the organisation. We've also run down our cash. There was a little note there from Dave about our cash reserves. We've reduced our cash reserves in the organisation. We're deploying that cash into the organisation. Unlike a lot of other organisations, I cannot go and borrow. So I have to leave a contingency for us in the bank that if anything goes wrong, that we've got that money to go. We cannot run out of money. That's about 4 weeks worth of money. It's not that much, actually. It's not that much. But it is enough for an organisation like Scottish Water where we've got very reliable income. Okay?
Thank you very much. Okay, so Natalie, you say we've got some online. Do you want to just... Sure. And who's this one for?
This one's for Simon. It's from Peter Poole. For years, Scottish Water and SEPA have maintained that CSOs are normal operations when they clearly have environmental and social impact. What does Scottish Water need to happen to reduce CSOs?
So let me just explain first of all for everybody in the audience what a CSO is. So this is a combined sewer overflow. So it's a relief valve. So if you think about next time you look in the bath or you look at the sink when you're brushing your teeth, there's a little hole in there to stop you flooding your house. So the water level will come up, but rather than spilling over the top of your bath or spilling over the top of your sink, there's a little hole there that means that it goes down to the drain. So our sewer system operates exactly like that. So there is a relief valve in our sewer system where the water level, if there's too much water in our sewers, that has to go somewhere. And rather than it going into your properties or into businesses or into streets, that then has a relief valve that spills that out, that takes that water out into the environment, so into local rivers, for example. By the time that happens, what will be in there will be 99% likely rainwater. So it's nearly all rainwater at that point, if our system is operating as it should do. So that's the whole process behind it. So in Scotland, we have the majority of what we have, apart from the new developments that Mark and the team are working on, the vast majority of it is a combined system. So you have your sewage pipes, the stuff that comes out of your house is mixing with rainwater from the road, from your roofs, from all of the other areas. And that just basically just fills the sewer system too much. Just as an aside, we've heard a lot about Dundee earlier from a dry period. When we ran this event in Dundee last year, as on the back of a dry period, we had one of the wettest days in Dundee's history on that day. So a huge amount of rainfall happening in the middle of that. And that rainfall, there's no way our sewer system which can deal with that. So we have a big program. We have a big program which we've agreed with SEPA called our Improving Urban Water program, and that's doing a few things. First one it's doing is putting monitors in. So we're putting in combined sewer overflow monitors to tell us how they're operating. We've got about 2,500 of those now in Scotland in our system, and we'll soon have, we're carrying on until we can provide that insight from every sewer overflow here in Scotland. We're also, though, improving the infrastructure. So we're putting in new screens, we're putting in new tanks across Scotland. So hundreds of projects in there, nearly always in the middle of cities or in the middle of the big towns. So Rob and his team have just delivered a fantastic project in Gorgie, right in the centre of Edinburgh. I think we're about to move to somewhere else in the centre of Edinburgh to make that on. These are big projects, but they are there to protect the environment from things like wet wipes that are going out, for example. So we've got big commitment. We've got significant investment in our next regulatory period to really think about what we can do to improve that. And there are two types of projects we're looking at. Water quality, so it has an impact on the quality of the water. There are about 20 locations in Scotland that we should have all finished by 2027, 28. And then there are many, many more which are to do with wet wipes and other stuff that people put down the loo, get into the system. There are hundreds of those. So we can do our part, but everybody in this room, everybody listening online can do their part. You only flush down the loo, the 3 Ps. Don't put any wet wipes, etc. down there. So the question is there any impact in terms of direct sewer overflows from rural? Yeah, so this is a thing that very much obviously to do with private or non-public septic systems often as part of that. And there are communities across Scotland that unfortunately do not have sewerage systems in place as part of that. They're not in the Scottish water systems, but it's a very similar question to your question earlier about Argyll and Bute, etc., from the private supply. So, yep, very happy to.
If that's okay.
Yep.
I'm just really conscious where time is pressing on. But there's one question I don't, because I've been having an easy time asking questions. But Elizabeth MacArthur, are you here today? No?
Not with us.
All right. So Elizabeth was asking, and I think we should take this head on. What is the total bonus balance given to all Scottish Water directors annually? Are these bonus details available for customer access, and if not, why not? So just in answer to that question, and some of you might have seen the Times article in the paper as well today, but in answer to Elizabeth's specific question, yes, we are very transparent about what we pay, and also in terms of the bonus, which is only ever paid for outperformance. We set very tough targets, and the outperformance payments are there for the whole organisation. In relation to the details about our executive directors and the CEO, all their remuneration is available in the annual report, so you can see all the details there. We don't, though, put all the executive team, Alex's executive team of 11 people, but cumulatively that budget, in answer to her question specifically, was 698,000. And I think in a bit of context, remembering that we are the big Scottish organisation, a public corporation supplying key services to the whole of Scotland, I think it's important that we do motivate our people to outperform as much as we can. And so this structure that we put in place is something that we think delivers the results that you, our customers, are wanting. And as Alex has said, we've had the second best year this year. So, we're kind of confident that the remuneration structure that we have in place is doing what it needs to do. So I hope that answers that question. Now, I'm getting lots of, we need to cut. So I've got one more question, though, just because I've got the microphone, so I'm going to do that. And the question is from Mark Allen in Aberdeen. He's watching online. This is for you, Alex. Please, can you assure me that Scottish Water will not be piped direct to England, please, as it belongs to all of us in Scotland and is amazing?
So, thank you very much, Mark. There is no big pipe that sort of takes stuff down from Scotland to England. As we've talked about tonight, Scottish Water's a public corporation. It's owned by everyone in Scotland, and what we're here to do is to meet the needs of people in Scotland. It's also just worth bearing in mind that water's very heavy. It's very expensive to move it long distances, so generally it's not economic to actually do that. What we do have in place, and I think this is a good thing, is that with our neighbouring companies, we have a sort of mutual aid system. So if there was a really bad problem that we had, I don't know, somewhere in Dumfries, and we were running out of water, we could call on help from colleagues at United Utilities over the border in Carlisle to see whether they could help us out. And the same could be true the other way around, to give an example. So that sort of thing is sensible, helps out, but it's a short-term arrangement, and certainly nothing on the lines that Mark is imagining.
Thank you very much. So that does take us to the close of the meeting. Thank you very much again, everybody who's come today. Thank you for your honesty and calling us out as appropriate, and thank you for your questions, I think, which have been really helpful, and for your thoughtful insights as to where you want us to be focusing. I think it's been very helpful. We must keep listening to you, so keep talking to us and keep holding us to account. And thank you for being part of this conversation and for taking an interest and coming along this evening and for watching online. So have a safe journey home and a very good evening. Thank you very much.